Hello everybody, welcome to Crafty Soup. My name is Misty. The beginning of the month means a new time to build a scrapbook kit as part of the design team over at the Counterfeit Kit Challenge. I will leave you all the links below if you want to join us. We take inspiration from the real world and then shop our own stash to build our own kits so that we save money and use that stash that we've actually purchased. This month's inspiration we are using from Pickle Berry Pop, which is a digital shopping website. And the kit that we're using is called the Lil Man collection, and it is by Bella Gypsy. I have opened up the main web page for this kit, but let's go ahead and take closer looks at all these pictures. So here is the overview of the kit, and as you can see, the color palette definitely can work for boys, but I don't like to limit color palettes when I'm scrapbooking, so I find this color palette to be widely usable for a lot of things. Now, a lot of the sentiments here, like little dude, you're a handsome thing, those might be a little more specific, but stuff like I love you this big certainly works for many things. Let's take a look at some of the other elements in here. So there are flowers, which I think is fantastic. These are a little more geometric. There are some more papery type flowers, but again, I don't think we should really worry about limiting someone to this thing or that thing. Let's see what else is going on in here. So lots of geometrics in the patterns as well, but polka dots and stars and plaids. Oh, this is like a little pink semi brick, maybe like a bathroom tile look to it. So let's take a look at some things separated out. This is called the Whatnot. So this is probably like an add-on embellishment pack. We've got stars, we've got some more little flowers. Oh, I see a metallic geotag and a metallic camera. I like that. There are some gears and some arrows. I use a lot of arrows and stars and cameras, so all of that works for me. Here is another, this one's called Itty Bits, so it's another embellishment pack with gears. I love the wood grain, hearts for sure. Let's keep looking. I do like all the splatters of mixed media in the background, so I'll pull in some of that. Here are the journaling cards. I don't specifically use many journaling cards, but they're there for inspiration. Like this shape here is really interesting. So it's just inspiration to take your thoughts in certain directions. And then we've got the alphabet sets. I love all of it. I especially love the kind of notebook grid look of these ones. I don't think I have anything in my stash that is like this, so that might be a good place for doing a bit of forgery on our products. And if you don't know what the forgery is, we are inspired by actual products and then we create our own versions. And that happens on the 4th if you want to come back for that. And then these are bonus papers, which look very similar to the original papers. All right, I always make myself some notes before I go down to my scrapbook space and start pulling supplies, and I'll walk you through that process next. All right, with my notes made, I went down to my space and started pulling papers because that's where I start my kit builds. I have this all stacked up kind of in order of the inspiration image, which I popped up on the screen over there on the left, and I will have a little arrow that will point to each of the inspiration pieces as we go. I did not start this kit with that first green sheet of paper. I started my kit with this circular print based on that larger inspiration. I actually pulled 2 pieces, and really, I looked at both of them, but this first one caught my attention the most. So while I do look at that one and think about some of the colors and stuff, I'm going to go ahead and set it aside because this first one has lots of geometrics in it, and it has more colors in it that I want to work with for this month. So that worked out. And now I can start back at the top of the list and decide from here what I want to keep and what I think should go. At first, I really thought I would keep that peach piece, but I think the green worked a little bit better with that inspiration. Moving on to the plaid, I did pull a few different options. I didn't have anything quite in that color frame, so I'm looking these over and trying to decide what I want to do. If I go back to my very first piece of paper, what is working best with that? And I think that piece of paper on the left that has more colors to it, this one here has lots of color, but it also has lots of orange, which really isn't showing up in this kit yet. So I think this piece is going to work the best, and I will go ahead and set the other two pieces aside. All right, next up we have that star print there, and I pulled 2 stars. This first one is too grayed out for me for this kit, so I picked the second one because it is a nice brighter blue and it matches with the inspiration better. Next up, I have a whole bunch of stripes here, and I really like the diagonal stripes, and I don't have a lot in my stash anymore. I do consider this one very strongly, and then the next one I look at is the diagonal stripe, and I'm just liking the richness of the color. And in fact, as I start thinking about what I've got going on, I have a lot of white in some of the pattern papers already pulled, so I think I want to go with this much richer colored stripe instead. Speaking of lots of white, here is my version of the hexagon print, and it is more yellow on white versus white on yellow. Next up, there's a chevron print, which you can't see much of the chevron, and I pulled the only chevron I could find, and again, it was a lot of white there. So next up we have, I don't know what this print is called, but this kind of Moroccan motif style print, and I pulled a Vicky Bouton in the yellow there. And as I fan out these papers and think about that yellow, I just decide it feels a little too dusty and distressed, so I go with the pink print there. It just feels like a much cleaner color to me. All right, next up is this kind of diamond triangle style print, and I had a good match for that. I didn't have any more star papers in my collection that I thought would work, but here is kind of a funky star print that I'm going to sub in for that. And then we have some concentric circles. And this Vicky Bouton piece, even though it's distressed, I think it has a nice light, bright feel to it. And the blue of the circles is very rich. So I think that is working well. Next up, there is kind of a triangle print. And I really have that piece of paper that I set aside. I've had in my stash forever, and I keep trying to use that along with a couple of other pieces that were in that collection. And so far, I just not have found any way to put that paper to use, and you'll see one of the companion prints there in a minute. Next up is another kind of diamondy print with these sketchy lines to it, and this one, although you can't see it very carefully, if I move it up a little bit closer, has this sketchiness to it, and I really liked that one. So I skipped the next 2 pieces of paper because I didn't have anything like that. And then I came upon these squares, and these were the pieces in my collection that I found that were squares. And that black and white print kind of goes along with the more teal square on the inspiration, but I'm trying to decide what I want to do. Do I want this print, which has a lot of orange in it, which I already said earlier I wasn't going to be doing orange, but I like the teal and I like the black, and this next piece of paper I'm going to keep has black in it. And we'll see a little bit later, the circle print that I started this whole kit with also had a little bit of black in it, and I'm going to pull some cardstock here because I wanted that solidness to break up the pattern papers, and I pull a piece of black as well. So that wraps up the pattern papers, and we're moving on to embellishments. Now, I'm going to use these prints as more of embellishments, even though it's based on pattern paper, and it is paper itself. I made those pieces for another kit, and I'm going to pull them back into this kit, and I might punch them into shapes and use them that way. I'm not quite sure yet, but that's my thinking at this moment. I did pull in these paper pads because they have much smaller prints to go along with the die I chose for the alphabet set. And speaking of alphabets, I also chose these liquid drops, the Nuvo drops, because in that alphabet set was more of a kind of fluorescent lighty looking alphabet, and I will pop it up on the screen here in a minute. But did you know that you can write with these liquid mediums? And I have done it in the past, but here you can see I wrote the word hi, and it kind of mimics the glossiness of that kind of neon-y looking alphabet set. All right, moving on. Next, I'm going to pull out a bunch of tools, including this rosette die, which matches some of the inspiration, a whole bunch of little punches. I really was feeling the tools in this kit, and you'll see the whole pile of them there. I do have some of the smaller embellishments going on as well, including arrows. And this is my arrow bin. I keep a lot of my embellishments in these bins. And several of those larger arrows, again, were made for other kits and I didn't use them all. So they're coming back again. There were also, I'd mentioned cameras in some of the inspiration, and I love my cameras. I am missing kind of an enamel dot set of cameras from Doodlebug that I know is somewhere, but I can't quite find it. So we'll see. More arrows because I love arrows. More stars because I love stars. I also have a star punch down in there. What else do I have? Oh yeah, cork, because there was a lot of cork in the inspiration that caught my attention. And so that is going in. Up next, we have more wood veneer. There was a little bit of wood in the like the add-on kits, but the main kit had florals with brad pieces in the center. So that's why I've got some floral punches and some brads. And what I didn't realize right away is that there's some washi tape in the add-on kits and the inspiration too. So I pulled out a bunch of that. And then for my phrases, I found this by accident when I was looking for the other pads, the other 6x6 pads of paper. This little pad has a bunch of phrases in it, so we'll use that in place of the phrase strips that were mostly about boys. And I've got some stencils based on some of the textures on the embellishments, and that wraps up my kit for this time around. Thanks for sticking with me to the end. This one is longer than usual and longer than I intended, so I hope you got something useful out of it. Until next time, I hope you have an artful day.